the Phil Steele Plus Tour with selections for your Saturday FCS update. Let's hope Chris has some winners for you in line today, much like he did all of last year. Let's start off with the New Mexico and Idaho State game. New Mexico a 13-point favorite here. These teams last met in 1998, but head coach Jason Eck, very familiar with Idaho State. Why is that? Well, he was the head coach at Idaho. And take a look at the scores that Idaho had against Idaho State the last couple of years. 40-17, 63-21, 38-7. They have dominated them. So Jason Eck, very familiar. But here's something else I want to show you, and it's really interesting. We have all this information for every team up here on philsteele.com. If you go to Idaho and you go to individual player stats for 2024, Jack Lane is their quarterback. Let's see what Jack Lane did on the year. And we're getting the individual player stats up here. Hopefully. Yeah, there they are. All right, we got the individual player stats. Jack Lane against Idaho State hit 17-22 for 234 yards and a 3.0 ratio last year. So Jack Lane was the quarterback there. Let's go to 2023. Jack Lane only played in one game, or two games that year. And let's take a look. Against Idaho State, 20-26, 275 yards, a 6.0 ratio. And let's take it back even one more year. 2022. Jack Lane only played in one game. It was against Idaho State. He had 18-29 for 255 with a 1-1 ratio. So Jack Lane has actually been the quarterback each of the last 3 years. Why do I bring that up? Well, let's take a look at New Mexico's quarterback this year. And we go to the Mountain West. We go to New Mexico. Their quarterback's Jack Lane, the Idaho transfer. So here's a guy that's had great success against this Idaho State defense. Look at this defensive numbers. They give up 300 yards rushing to UNLV, 323 to Southern Utah. Look at all the red in here for Idaho State. They play very weak defense. So you've got a New Mexico team that actually had a 21-20 first down edge against Michigan in the Big House. Jack Lane, who knows this defense well, and they've won their games by 23, 42, and 31. Idaho has. Now he's the quarterback, and they've got the head coach from Idaho and numerous other transfers as well. Chris has it New Mexico 48 and Idaho State 21. All right, let's take a look at the next matchup. And we're going to put Eastern Michigan on the right here. There's Eastern Michigan. And we're going to put Long Island on the left. Long Island, here we go. And we take a look. Now, Long Island did not have a good first game this year. They actually opened up with 2 first downs against Florida. Not good. But Florida has a hell of a team. So they are not taking on a team that's in that category. In fact, last week, Eastern Michigan let me down. I used them as a dog on the tour against Texas State. They were close at the half. And next week, we'll have all the boxes updated. All the halftimes will be updated. It's just this first week, everything's crazy. We're trying to get everything set up. Next week, all this stuff will be updated for you. But anyway, it was close at the half, and then boom, they got blown out. 52-27, gave up 606 yards. Now, the one thing you'll notice if you look at the last 10 years' results, and I showed you last week that Chris Creighton was great as an away dog, 33-14, but pretty average as a home favorite. And so you've got a team that he's 11-19 against the spread as a home favorite. And here they're a big favorite nonetheless. They're a 21.5-point favorite for this game. One thing I want to point out, if you look at Long Island, their coach is Ron Cooper. And if you click here under last 40 years results, this tells you all of the coaches that have been here. It shows you, first of all, the box score, the spreads and records all the way back to 1976. But it shows you who the coaches were. Ron Cooper was actually the coach at Eastern Michigan at one point back in 93, 94. So this game is important to Ron Cooper, I would think. And you've got a Long Island team. Now, Chris says, if you go back and look at their ATS logs, and the FCS magazine has the 24 logs updated, but you can go back and look. Chris did the work for you. Chris says that Long Island's actually 8-0-1 against the spread when they are a double-digit dog. How about 8-0-1? Now, last week they did lose to Florida, so 8-1-1. So you've got a great double-digit dog against a poor double-digit, poor home favorite. And you've got the fact that the head coach for Long Island used to be the head coach for Eastern Michigan, so this one's special to him. Chris likes Long Island plus 21.5 over Eastern Michigan. I love Eastern Michigan as a away dog. I don't like them as a favorite. We're one of those teams that plays to the same thing every week where they're great dog, poor favorite. We're taking Long Island plus 21.5 over Eastern Michigan. All right, we got 2 FCS versus FCS games for you. And once again, to get here, you go to the philsteele.com menu. Well, I don't have a thing for that, but let's take a look here. Let me go back to here, and let's go to the FCS team pages. And in the FCS team pages, we're going to put Tennessee Tech against Chattanooga. So let's go ahead and get Tennessee Tech up here. And there they are. They played Cumberland last week. And let's get Chattanooga up here. Go to the FCS. Chattanooga. And Chattanooga played Memphis. So the couple things he wants to point out here, this future SoCon matchup is these schools are just 99 miles apart. Tennessee Tech is moving to the SoCon next year. Now, Tennessee Tech, this team over here, hired Bobby Wilder. I think Bobby Wilder's a heck of a coach. He was the head coach for Old Dominion, did a great job there. Remember a couple upsets of Virginia Tech. He's in his second year at Tennessee Tech. Now, when he took over a team that was struggling. And they struggled in the learning period here. If you look at the first 6 games under Bobby Wilder, they were just 2-4. But down the stretch, they went 5-0. So they had a great finish down the stretch last year. In fact, look at the last 4 weeks AGG. They played to an 87.6 level. This is your average game grade. Takes into account the opponent, the yards, the score of the game, the yards rushing, yards passing, both offense and defense. Gives you a complete picture of the game. As you see, they were playing great ball down the stretch, played to an 87.6 level. Meanwhile, Chattanooga down the stretch was only playing to a 70.5 level. Now, Chris wants to point out here that the quarterback is back for, let me look here. Robertson was hot. Oh, Robertson. Okay, let me take a look one thing here. Lost their entire front seven. I'm reading the wrong game. Sorry about that. Eastern Washington transfer Kakoa Vesperis comes in. Let's go look at Eastern Washington for a second here. FCS team pages. Eastern Washington. And their quarterback last year was Kakoa Vesperis. Look at this. He had a 17-2 ratio. Threw for 2,000 yards, was hitting 74%. All these FCS numbers are going to be updated shortly. I'm just trying to get the tour done quickly this morning so you have time to view it. We're getting a little bit of a late start here today, but all these stats will be updated for you. It's later today, probably within the hour. So when you click on your Phil Steele Plus stuff, all this stuff will be updated. But you'll see that Vesperis is actually the quarterback for Tennessee Tech right now and had a great ratio last year. They also returned 11 of their top 15 tacklers, and they've got an experienced quarterback. Meanwhile, UT Chattanooga, the Mocs lost 14 transfers to FBS programs. They have just 7 starters back. They were picked to finish second by the media, but we have them 5th in the digital magazine. And keep in mind, if you go to the philsteele.com store, okay, there's the store. You can get the digital FCS magazine. It's under here under digital editions. Right here, you get 2 full pages on every FCS team. So make sure you check that out. Well, let's go back here. And if you take a look at the last 4 weeks, as I mentioned, as Tennessee Tech by 19.1, Chris feels that Tennessee Tech has improved, and UT Chattanooga, which lost all those players to FBS programs, only has 7 starters back, is weaker. He likes Tennessee Tech minus 3.5 over Chattanooga. That's Tennessee Tech minus 3.5. His projected score, Tennessee Tech 34-21. And finally, we'll finish it off with Monmouth against Fordham. And we'll put Monmouth here on the left, and we will put Fordham here on the right. Fordham just played Boston College, gave up 555 yards. Now, these two met last year with 63-21. Here's what Chris says. Monmouth had the FCS number 2 scoring offense, number 1 total offense last year. They were number one in the FCS, putting up 127 yards per game, more than their opponents. Right here, you can see that. This tells you what you get above your opponent's average. Look at that, 127, number one in the FCS. They returned Derek Robertson, their quarterback, who had a 31-6 ratio last year and was the CAA Offensive Player of the Year. Their top rusher, Nelson, is back. Their top 7 receivers and their 2 best offensive linemen are all back. Now, meanwhile, their defense last year gave up 423 yards per game, and they lost their entire front 7. This year, they opened up against Colgate, and they were behind 31-7 in the third quarter, thanks to 4 interceptions. Robertson got hot, and they won 42-39. Robertson threw for 491 yards and 4 touchdowns. Rodney Nelson rushed for 22 for 169. And their defense allowed 541 yards to a team that only averaged 20 points per game last year. Let's go look at that. Colgate, last year, offense. Well, a lot of red there. Look at that. They only averaged 20 points, 330 yards. They got 541 against this rebuilt defense last week. So that's a good sign there. Fordham has 11 starters back. They opened up at Boston College, gave up 66 points. Monmouth won 63-21 last year. Monmouth ran for 407 yards in that game. Let's take a look at that. Look at that. 407, 8.7, and they got everybody back. Fordham only put up 18 points last year, but 2 years ago, when you look at this game, Fordham did put up 30 points per game and 428 points per game, and they do have an experienced quarterback. So Monmouth has 11 of 13 games went over the total last year. Their offense has improved. Their defense is worse. He likes a high-scoring game here. It's over 66. He's got the score at 52-31. That's 83 points. He's going over 66. So once again, apologize for being late this morning, but we wanted to get the tour up for you. We got 4 selections for you for the FCS. Let's hope Chris stays on his hot streak like he has been over the last 3 years, putting out these FCS selections. And I will be back with you with your next Phil Steele Plus tour up Thursday with the full tour. Also, if you haven't already checked out this week's tour, make sure you check it out right now, philsteele.com. And thanks for taking the Phil Steele Plus tour with me with selections.